Good afternoon, everybody. Good to see you all. Under Trump, border catch and release has dropped 99.99% from worst Biden month. You can't get much better than that. This statistic in particular is astounding. Border Patrol agents caught and immediately released 189,604 illegal aliens into the United States in December 2023 at the height of the Biden border crisis. But under President Trump, Border Patrol agents caught and released only 20 illegal aliens into the U.S. in the month of February. Thanks to President Trump, operational control of the border is becoming a reality, and the administration's historic enforcement measures are yielding huge results. Illegal aliens are finally getting the blunt message. If you cross the border illegally, you will be swiftly deported and never return to the United States of America. Efforts to arrest the criminal illegal alien invaders are continuing to ramp up. America is $36 trillion in debt. We must get our fiscal house in order and restore common sense to our country. If you take out a loan, you have to pay it back. It's very simple. President Trump will not kick the can down the road anymore.
Caroline, Peter Navarro said that it's perfectly possible to do 90 deals in 90 days. We haven't seen one just yet. How soon might we see a deal, and what evidence can you share that progress is being made in these trade negotiations?
Sure. Well, I spoke to our entire trade team this morning. There is a lot of progress being made. We now have 18 proposals on paper that have been brought to the trade team. Again, these are proposals on paper that countries have proposed to the Trump administration and to our government. You have Secretary Bessent, Secretary Lutnick, Ambassador Greer, NEC Director Hassett, and Peter Navarro, the entire trade team, meeting with 34 countries this week alone. We are moving at Trump speed to ensure these deals are made on behalf of the American worker and the American people. And just yesterday, it seemed to get a little bit lost in the news, and I think it's a disservice to the American public that it did. The Vice President announced terms of reference for a trade deal with India. That is a big deal. We know when we look at the numbers, the monetary trade barriers and the non-monetary trade barriers from India, they have been ripping off the United States and American workers for a very long time. So the fact that the Vice President with Prime Minister Modi on that trip in India announced these terms of reference, which is essentially a framework to move the ball forward to sign a good trade deal between our two nations, is great progress, and it speaks to the work ethic and the real labor that's being put into this effort by the president's trade team. Sure. Go ahead.
Does the proposals that you talk about, is that enough to extend the pauses on these reciprocal tariffs, or does the president need to see, these deals inked and signed to offer any sort of additional extension beyond the 90 days?
Well, look, ask me in July when the deadline hits. I know I'll be answering those questions from all of you in this room. There's a lot of time left, and the president's trade team is working, again, at Trump speed as quickly as they can to ensure that these deals can be made.
Are any of those conversations yet with China happening?
I actually do have something to share on that. I asked the president about this before coming out here, and he wanted me to share with all of you that we're doing very well in respect to a potential trade deal with China. As I mentioned, there have now been 18 proposals in more than 100 countries around the world who are wanting to make a deal with the United States of America, and the president and the administration are setting the stage for a deal with China. So we feel everyone involved wants to see a trade deal happen, and the ball is moving in the right direction. Sure.
Setting the stage for a deal with China, what does that mean? Has the president spoken directly with Xi yet?
I don't have anything to read out on a direct talk between the president and President Xi, but we will continue to keep you updated.
And Secretary Bessent reportedly today told investors that this trade standoff with China he expects will be de-escalating soon because, as he described it, reportedly the situation is unsustainable. Is the president considering taking steps to de-escalate the situation with China?
Again, I just read you words directly from the President of the United States. Those are moments ago. That's where his head is at right now.
Caroline.
Sure.
Caroline, I had two questions, one on immigration and one on China. First on immigration. Roughly how many illegal immigrants and aliens do we have in our country, and how many does the administration plan on deporting?
Sure. Well, you'd have to ask the Department of Homeland Security for a specific number, but we suspect it's definitely in the millions, perhaps upwards of 20 million people that were allowed into the country illegally by the previous administration. And the president and his team are focused on deporting as many as we possibly can, and they are moving as quickly as possible. The president's team has made it clear we need more funding from Congress to do more. We need more ICE agents out on the ground doing this very important work. And we also need rogue district court judges to stop acting as judicial activists, trying to block the administration from deporting illegal criminals from our nation's interior. The American public elected the president to do this, and he's following through with that promise.
And we have over 250,000 Chinese nationals in our country right now on student visas. Does the administration believe there's any national security concern when it comes to those over 250,000 Chinese nationals in our country?
Well, as you know, when it comes to foreign visas, the Secretary of State has the right to revoke visas of those who we feel are acting in an adversarial way to our foreign policy interests here in the United States. He has that authority according to the Immigration and Nationality Act. So I would defer you to the State Department for any individual case, but they are looking at individuals who are given the privilege of being on a visa in our country, and if they are acting, again, adversarial to our foreign policy interests, their visa can be revoked, and they should be aware of that.
And then another quick question about
Sure.
Google, real quick. A federal court ruled last Thursday that Google's dominance of online advertising and ad tech markets violated U.S. antitrust laws. I know the president has spoken to a number of folks in big tech, and Google's CEO was even at his inauguration. I'm curious, what is the president's reaction to that court ruling?
I'll have to ask him, and I'll get back to you, Phil.
Thank you, Caroline.
You're welcome. John.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. Some economic questions for you. Kevin Hassett has been a key economic advisor to the president in both of his terms. In 2022...
And he still is.
And he still is.
He was just in my office.
Absolutely. In 2022, he said that the independence of the Fed is super important. That's a direct quote. Is that something that the president subscribes to? Does he still believe in the independence of the Federal Reserve?
Well, look, I think the president has made his position on the Fed and on Powell quite clear. The president believes that they have been making moves and taking action in the name of politics rather in the name of what's right for the American economy. The president has the right to express his displeasure with the Fed, and he has the right to say he believes interest rates should be lower. He believes Americans should be able to borrow money cheaper than they currently are right now. And I also spoke to Kevin Hassett about the Fed as well, and he has called into question the Fed's independence and whether they are actually doing things, again, out of the best interest of the economy, or are they doing it for partisan reasons. The president wants to see interest rates lower. He has made that quite clear.
We've also seen, if I may, one more, Caroline, just about, I said two economic questions, about the dollar. We've seen the dollar at multi-year lows versus the euro and other currencies around the world. Is it the administration's policy for a strong dollar? How does it view the dollar versus other currencies around the world?
The president wants to see the dollar remain as the world's reserve currency for our long-term fiscal stability and our economic growth. He's been quite clear about that.
Thank you. And then on the Supreme Court, I know the court is hearing a case dealing with parents who don't want their kids having to read gender ideology books in schools. Can you comment on that case and what the Trump administration hopes to see come from that?
Sure. We hope the Supreme Court will do the right thing, and the president has been very clear. He stands on the side of parental rights, and he believes strongly that parents should have a greater say in their children's education and the content, if you will, that children are being exposed to in our public school system. However, I do have an update on meetings when it comes to the Russia-Ukraine war. I was just in the Oval Office with the President, Steve Witkoff, and they wanted everybody to know that the negotiations continue. We feel, again, we're hopefully moving in the right direction, and the special envoy, Steve Witkoff, will be heading to Russia again later this week to continue talks with Vladimir Putin.
Is that why Rubio is not heading to London? Is he accompanying Witkoff to Moscow?
I can't speak for the Secretary of State's travel schedule. I'd defer you to the Department of State.
And then more broadly, just about the peace agreement, the talks that are ongoing. Secretary Rubio had said that if things don't go the right way, that the U.S. might need to take a step back. What does stepping back look like? Is that a step back from brokering peace, or would that imply a broader withdrawal from U.S. support for Ukraine and the war?
Look, I think it would be unwise for me to broadcast that from this podium. Ultimately, that's a decision for the president to make, but he's made it very clear he wants to see peace, he wants to see this war end, and he wants to stop the killing on both sides of this war, and he's been very clear about that for quite some time, and he has grown frustrated with both sides of this war, and he's made that very known.
Just a quickly follow up on China. Any response to reports that China is targeting U.S. trade allies with potential retaliatory measures for supporting U.S. agendas?
I think the numbers and the sheer number of countries that have reached out to the United States and reached out to this administration to cut good trade deals speak for themselves. The entire world knows that they need the United States of America and they want to do business here, and so we'll stay focused on cutting good trade deals on behalf of the American worker. And it's in regards to the terrorist attack that took place in India earlier today. The president has been briefed by the National Security Advisor, and he's being kept up to speed as more facts are learned. What we know already is dozens were killed and even more were injured in a brutal terrorist attack in a popular tourist location in South Kashmir. President Trump will be speaking with Prime Minister Modi as soon as he possibly can to express his heartfelt condolences for those lost, and our prayers are with those injured and our nation's support for our ally India. These types of horrific events by terrorists are why those of us who work for peace and stability in the world continue our mission. So we'll give you a readout of that call later this afternoon. There's a lot of work to be had. You may hear from the president later this afternoon as well, and we'll see you all later. Thank you.